At the beginning of this story, we see a boy named Steve who wants to go into the mines to search for treasure. But an old man there drives him away because children weren't allowed to enter. As Steve grew older, he wasn't happy with his life. It was quite boring. One day he remembered the mines again and decided to go back, fully prepared. The old man tried to stop him again, but Steve managed to sneak inside and started digging. While digging, he found two mysterious artifacts. One was the Orb of Dominance and the other was the Earth Crystal. When Steve combined the two, a portal opened leading to another world, the Overworld of Minecraft. The place was incredibly beautiful, and Steve loved it because he could bring any of his imaginations to life there. One day he heard the sound of a wolf that wanted to eat him, but Steve gave it a bone and made it his friend. He named him Dennis and soon two became best friends. Steve created many masterpieces and even built an entire Steve world. His life was like heaven, until one day he stumbled upon strange ruins. When he inserted a cube, a dark gate opened. Dennis went inside. When Steve followed him, he was shocked to find a terrifying world called the Nether. This was a place where the piglins lived. There was no creativity here, no joy, only piglins obsessed with gold. Their cruel leader was a witch named Malgosia, who dreamed of ruling the entire overworld. She captured Steve and Dennis and also got her hands on the Orb of Dominance, which she could now use to fulfill her dark ambition. She told her piglins, "With the help of this orb, we will turn the entire overworld into hell and claim all its gold." Steve couldn't let that happen. Dennis cleverly stole the dungeon key, and Steve managed to snatch the orb. Steve gave Dennis the task of hiding the orb and sent him away. During its escape, Dennis lost its belt but didn't stop running. It reached the human world and arrived at Steve's house, where he hid the orb and the earth crystal under Steve's bed. The moment the orb and crystal were separated, the portal to the overworld closed, trapping Dennis in the human world with no way back. But at least the overworld was now safe because without the orb, Malgosia couldn't harm it anymore. Now scene shift after many years later at Garrett. People also call him the garbage man. He was once the champion of the Hung City video game. Now he barely makes ends meet running a small video game store. Money is tight and things get worse when he gets an eviction notice. He might lose his shop. Desperate for cash, Garrett goes to a storage auction hoping to find valuable items. He hears one locker contains Cosmos, a super popular game from 1978 that could be worth a lot. Excited, he pays way too much money for the locker. But when he opens the Cosmos box, there's no game, just trash, a weird glowing orb and a crystal. These strange items actually came from Steve's old abandoned house. Now Garrett is broke and furious. He grabs the orb and crystal and speeds off in his beat-up car, but the engine dies on the way home. Frustrated, he gets out and yells at the sky. Meanwhile, we meet Natalie and her little brother Henry. After their mom passed away, they moved to this town because it's all they can afford. Henry hates it, but Natalie explains she got a job at the potato chip factory and the rent is cheap. Their new real estate agent, Don, gives them the keys to their shabby new home. The next day, Natalie makes Henry a special pizza to cheer him up for his first day at a new school. As Henry bikes to school, he spots Garrett's video game store and, being a curious kid, decides to check it out. Garrett asks him, "Kid, are you looking for something special?" Henry replies, "I'm just looking around casually." Garrett says, "Just looking around like that is a sign of being a loser. But don't worry, I'm starting a new mentorship program where I'll teach people how to win in life." But Henry isn't interested in that. He quickly reaches school where the teacher tells the class, "Today we'll be doing real-life drawing." The teacher asks them to draw a real life of an orange and a banana. All the kids draw the banana and orange in different ways just like they appear in real life. But Henry adds a jetpack to the banana. The teacher gets angry after seeing his drawing and says, "Don't you know what real-life drawing means? In real-life drawing you draw things exactly the way they are." A boy says to Henry, "What a ridiculous jetpack you made. It'll never work." Henry replies, "It's fully calculated." The boy mocks him, "You're not a rocket scientist." Everyone starts laughing at Henry. Henry says, "I can actually make this jetpack in real life." Being a genius, he quickly uses some stuff from the school to build a jetpack within minutes. For testing, he attaches it to a skeleton model. But that boy cuts one of the jetpack's wires so it won't work properly. As soon as Henry flies the jetpack, he loses control and crashes into a potato chip factory where Natalie works. The giant potato model on the roof of the factory breaks off and falls into the water. Everyone got really scared. Vice Principal Marlin speaks to Henry and tells him, "Thank goodness no one got hurt because of you." Henry says it all happened because of a mistake. Marlin replies, This mistake could have gotten you into serious trouble. You need to call your guardian here immediately. Henry couldn't call Natalie, so he dials Garrett instead and says, "It's me, the potato cutlet loser. I just need a small favor. Can you come to school and pretend to be my fake uncle?" At first, Garrett refuses, but when Henry offers him money, he immediately brings his car and rushes to school. He picks up Henry and takes him straight to the store. Henry is feeling quite anxious when he spots an orb and an earth crystal there. He asks Garrett about them, but Garrett says, "I don't really know what they are, but I think I can sell them for a good price." He notices that there's a manual in the bag next to the orb. It clearly says, "Never under any circumstances combine the orb and the crystal." Obviously, Henry goes ahead and combines the two. This causes a surge of intense energy to burst out, as a portal to the overworld opens back up inside the mine, and the orb starts getting pulled toward that portal. Henry and Garrett rush to the mine. Meanwhile, Natalie is worried about her brother. She calls Don and tells him Henry has been missing for several hours. Don grabs Henry's phone and traces his location. They find out he's gone to a mine, so both Natalie and Don head that way. Back at the mine, Henry and Garrett see the gateway to the overworld and get excited. But just then, Natalie and Don also arrive. Suddenly, the portal begins to pull the orb inside. Everyone tries to hold it back, but they fail. And in the next moment, all of them are pulled into the Minecraft world, the overworld. They were all amazed to see that world. It was incredibly beautiful, but everything there was cube-shaped. Meanwhile, we are shown Malgosia, who now realizes that the orb has returned to the overworld. Since she can't go there herself because she'd turn into a zombie, she goes to Steve. She tries to scare him and says, "It's back." Steve doesn't believe her. Malgosia says, "You were the one who stole it, so you're the one who has to bring it back. Otherwise, I'll kill your pet dog." She's lying. She doesn't actually have Dennis, but to convince Steve, she shows him Dennis's collar, which her men found along the way. Meanwhile, we see a villager who crosses through the portal into the human world. Dennis is also there, and now he too heads toward the overworld. Back in the overworld, Garrett is trying to communicate with a ship, but suddenly night falls. The ship gets scared and sails away. Now, a swarm of skeletons starts attacking them, so they run for their lives. During the chaos, Garrett falls into a pit. Henry learns how to punch and collect cubes. He uses the wooden cubes to build a tower to protect himself from the zombies and skeletons. They manage to survive, but Garrett is still outside. He secretly sneaks out of the pit and escapes. Garrett heads toward the tower Henry built. He also picks up the orb lying outside. But during one of the attacks, his earth crystal breaks, closing the gateway to the real world. Garrett starts fighting zombies with the orb. Meanwhile, zombies begin appearing inside the tower too, but they manage to throw them out. Henry pulls Garrett into the tower as well, but a creeper's explosion creates a hole in the tower, and now several zombies start entering. Everyone gets terrified. But just then, Steve arrives and begins defeating all the zombies. Morning breaks, and with sunlight, all the zombies start burning and are destroyed. Afterward, Steve introduces himself and explains to everyone that since the Earth crystal is broken, no one can return to Earth anymore. But then Steve tells them about a possible way. There's one last remaining Earth crystal in the Woodland mansion, and they must retrieve it. After explaining all this, Steve makes a deal with them. He will find the crystal and help them return to Earth, but in return they must help him too. Everyone agrees. Then Steve takes them to a village to prepare weapons for the dangers ahead, where he has his own store. Meanwhile, Malgosia finds out from her informant that Steve has betrayed her and joined forces with the humans. This makes Malgosia furious, and she orders one of her Dooker war squads to kill them. She also gives them a special tonic that will protect them from turning into zombies in the overworld. On the other side, Steve takes Garrett and Henry into his secret room, where he keeps all his collected diamond armor, TNT, and various resources. Steve tells them that everything they'll need to reach the mansion is here. Seeing all this, Henry gets really excited. Garrett finds an ender pearl which can teleport a person to wherever it's thrown. As soon as Garrett throws the pearl, he teleports backward and is shocked. Steve says, "That was my only ender pearl, and I nearly died fighting an enderman to get it." Then he shows them the crafting table and demonstrates how to create weapons using different elements. When Garrett tries it, he ends up making 2 buckets. Henry, on the other hand, combines several metals and items from the human world to build a cutlet launcher. Steve is stunned and super impressed because he's never seen something that cool before. Later, Garrett speaks to Steve in private and says, "There must be a lot of treasure in this place. Do you know of any treasure spots?" Steve replies, "There's treasure everywhere here. In fact, I have an entire vault of diamonds hidden in the redstone mines. but getting there is very risky. Garrett says, I have the orb. If you take me to the treasure, I'll give it to you. Meanwhile, Natalie and Don arrive at two merchants to buy a map. But suddenly, piglins attack them and start destroying the entire village. All the villagers flee in fear. Steve, along with Garrett and Henry, comes to fight them. Junks arrives to kill them. Garrett tries to fight him using his buckets but accidentally knocks Steve unconscious. Henry uses his launcher to defeat the piglins, and Natalie and Don also join the fight, helping to defeat them. Garrett is getting badly beaten, but just then an iron golem arrives and throws Junks far away. Steve regains consciousness and tells Henry, we must reach beyond the boundary wall. They start climbing upward but get separated from Natalie and Don. Natalie worries, but Don reassures her, we'll meet them at the mission point. Henry, Garrett, and Steve reach the top. Steve gives them wings, but he only has two. So Henry rides on Garrett as they fly. However, flying piglins chase after them. They manage to escape across the boundary, but one piglin lands on Henry, throwing off their balance, and the three of them crash down. Steve uses a water bucket just in time to save their lives. Henry asks Steve, why do all these Dooker piglins want to kill us? Steve explains, they were all sent by Malgosia, a wicked Dooker witch ant who rules the Nether, a kind of hell. Malgosia's villainous journey started there, where all the piglins come from. As a child, she dreamed of becoming a world-class dancer. So, during the Nether talent show, she tried to perform using only her facial expressions. But her deadly moves were too much for the piglins and they mocked her brutally. Her dream was shattered. Her father scolded her harshly, saying, your dancing brought shame to our family. Forget your dreams and use this axe to bring me gold instead. From that day, Malgosia hated all kinds of creativity. Whenever she saw anyone making something creative, she would destroy them. If she ever gets hold of the orb, she'll darken the overworld sun, covering it in darkness, and build her black world here, destroying this beautiful land forever. Henry says to Steve, even after knowing all this, you still wanted to give her the orb? Steve replies, I would never let her do such a thing. But I can use the orb to save Dennis. Then they all begin to move forward. Meanwhile, we see Malgosia, who is furious at Junks. She now summons her most dangerous Dooker, Hawk, to eliminate the humans. She even has Junks killed and orders Hawk, find those humans quickly and bring them to me. Elsewhere, Natalie and Don are lost, as they don't know the way to the woodland mansion. They're fighting off zombies and skeletons along the way. Suddenly, a wolf approaches them. Don lovingly gives it a bone and realizes, it's Dennis. She's happy because she knows Dennis is Steve's pet. She asks Dennis, can you take us to Steve? Dennis starts walking ahead and they begin to follow it. Meanwhile, Steve, Henry, and Garrett reach the redstone mine, where Steve had hidden his treasure. He had also set traps there, which accidentally get triggered by Garrett's annoyance. Garrett crashes into various things and falls far away, accidentally opening the door to a secret bunker filled with precious diamonds. Garrett, overjoyed, starts pocketing the diamonds. Henry angrily says, you brought us here just to fulfill your greed? My sister might have already reached the woodland mansion. She could be in danger. Suddenly, they smell something strange. It's Hawk, who has arrived with his troops. They quickly jump into mine carts to escape, but the carts get stuck in Creeper Farm due to lack of redstone boost. Garrett gives the cart a push to get it moving. Hawk is chasing them, so they start attacking nearby creepers to activate the boosters. With the help of the redstone boosters, they finally manage to escape. Due to the creeper blasts, there were massive explosions that completely destroyed the area. The three of them escape and descend into the forest. Henry starts yelling at Garrett, saying, we didn't need those diamonds. You're a selfish person. Garrett replies, I'm completely broke in my life. My life's a mess and even my last store is about to shut down. And worst of all, I'm alone. Henry says, you're not alone. I'm your friend. Meanwhile, we see the villager who had crossed into the real world. He's trying to cross the road, but suddenly he gets hit by a car. It's Marlon's car. Marlon is shocked to see his big square head. She asks, you're not going to sue me, are you? But he doesn't respond, so she decides to take him out for dinner. She tells him, I recently got divorced because my husband had no personality, but you're amazing. Back in the forest, Garrett apologizes to Henry for his mistakes. He gives the orb back and says, it'll be safer with you. I had stolen it. Now the three of them finally arrive outside Woodland Mansion. Steve tells them, this mission has 3 floors. The first floor is filled with Vindicators. On the second floor, Evokers roam, creatures filled with powerful darkness. The third floor holds many treasures, one of which is the earth crystal. But beware, the treasures are guarded by Endermen. So whatever happens, don't look them in the eyes. Henry says, I'll sneak my way to the top floor. You two distract the Vindicators. The two disguise themselves as musicians and go inside, distracting the Vindicators with music and dancing. Taking advantage of the distraction, Henry reaches the second floor where several evokers are guarding the area. They spot him moving toward the third floor, so he quickly runs and slams the door shut behind him, narrowly escaping them. Now inside, he begins searching all the boxes to find the earth crystal. Meanwhile, Garrett and Steve have been caught by the Vindicators and are thrown into an arena. Garrett is forced to fight a chicken and a baby zombie, and he's getting beaten badly. Back upstairs, Henry finally finds the earth crystal. But suddenly an Enderman appears. Henry accidentally looks into its eyes, triggering strange visions, voices calling him useless and worthless. However, he snaps out of it and uses his axe to defeat the Enderman after a tough fight. He also gains an Ender Pearl in the process. As the three try to escape, Malgosia arrives with her army of duckers. Using her power, she snatches the orb from Henry and orders her duckers to kill them all before vanishing. The duckers begin attacking using TNT, and Garrett, to protect Henry, throws him onto a flying cast. Steve jumps on as well, but Garrett stays back to hold them off. A massive explosion from the TNT blasts through the area. Henry, believing Garrett has been killed, screams in anguish. The flying cast loses control, and both Henry and Steve fall and lose consciousness. Meanwhile, Dawn and Netley had found them and brought them to a mushroom house. Dennis manages to wake Steve up. Steve is overjoyed to see Dennis again. Meanwhile, in the Nether, Malgosia builds a powerful device above the Netherworld door. When she places the orb into it, a giant laser beam shoots up, covering the sun with dark energy. This plunges the entire overworld into darkness, allowing fungus and mold to spread everywhere. Now, the Nether creatures could roam freely, without any threat of burning in the sun or being attacked by zombies. The entire Nether army invades the overworld. Steve watches in horror and says, Malgosia is gathering a massive force. She'll destroy everything. We must take the orb back. They all begin preparing for war. They craft iron golems, TNT, and powerful weapons. The resistance is ready. Malgosia commands her ducker army. The overworld is ours. Destroy every bit of creativity and bring me all the gold. As the ducker advance, Henry uses his crafted iron ignotus to summon iron golems, even building a Boots of Swiftness version of one. An epic battle begins. Henry throws the Ender Pearl to teleport toward the tower where the orb is kept. But Malgosia releases her most powerful beast, Great Hawk. Steve rushes to fight Malgosia, while the Great Hawk knocks him off a cliff. It seems like Steve is going to die. But just in time, Garrett arrives riding a flying cast, saving him. Everyone cheers his return. Garrett uses the cast's fireballs to destroy the tower, bringing the orb crashing down. Suddenly, sunlight returns. The Nether forces begin burning and dissolving in the daylight. Malgosia, defeated and furious, tries to kill Steve but fails. The Boots of Swiftness golem takes down the Great Hawk, ending the final threat. The overworld is finally safe. After this, Steve decides to stay in overworld, but Netley inspire him to create something in real world. The gang creates a new game, Block Booster, which becomes super popular. Garrett's store becomes a big hit. Steve and Garrett sing and celebrate with everyone. Henry builds his jetpack and flies to school, shocking everyone. Dawn starts her own juice brand. Netley opens a self-defense school using her new fighting skills. And finally, we see Marlin, now living happily with the villager. He proposes to her. And Marlin joyfully agrees to marry him. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching.